Hello and welcome! Today we're going to be talking about Vinland Saga, and I want to break this up into two portions because I know that some people have just gotten into Vinland Saga anime. I have just gotten caught up to manga, and so what I want to do is I want to have the first part of this review be about the section that I'm assuming the anime is going to cover, which means that it will be through the first 50 chapters or so, probably up to 54, and I will wait to talk about the end of 54 until into manga portion because I haven't seen the anime. I have read the manga. And so Vinland Saga is such an interesting series without getting into the stuff that comes later. It changes without changing is maybe the way to put it. The story goes through some very interesting paths, but it feels like the core theme of the series has always been what it is. And granted, it's not finished yet. It could be that it changes again before we get to the end. But where the story's at right now, I'm really happy with. I really like Thorfinn as a main character, and I kind of didn't for a long time. I thought Thorfinn was fine. His goals were fine, but he didn't really shine as a main character to me. But having gotten further into Vinland Saga, Thorfinn as a character really has risen to me to one of my favorite main characters. I really like the journey that he takes. But staying in the first 50 chapters, Vinland Saga is like, it is visceral, is maybe the word that I want to use. It is incredibly visceral. Lots of death, lots of action, lots of battles. Vinland Saga is it's very quick to show you that it is about war and the effect that has on people, using the culture of the Norse, using the Viking culture. And you get to see a bunch of different facets of that throughout it. But I think what makes it so interesting to me is that it isn't afraid, first off, obviously, a lot of things have done this, but it isn't afraid to show the darker side of war, of what it does to people. And you see that in the way that people like Thorkel or people like Floki, that are just these almost crazed with battle or completely cold towards people that aren't their family because they don't matter, right? What does it matter if you hurt somebody else? If they're not family, then it doesn't matter, which obviously is like the antithesis of what I stand for. But it makes it really interesting to see the comparisons when you get the regular villager that is getting raided, that, hey, they've just been trying to live their life. They didn't expect this. They don't want this. There's nothing they can do to stop it because of the sheer force that the Vikings are bringing to the table. And it's really interesting to get that story told in a way that isn't. It's not necessarily condemning it, nor is it condoning it. It's kind of just like, hey, this is how it was. This is what it's like. This is the culture they have. This is why they do this thing. It doesn't make it okay, but we're also not going to say it's bad, even though we're showing the negative ramifications of it because that's their culture. And I think it's really interesting to me to see that, at least for the first chunk, Vinland Saga shows, hey, this is not okay, but also this is how they live. Here's the benefits of it with the negatives. I think it's really interesting to see that dynamic, that duality of revenge is literally you have to go for, it's unheard of to not even consider going for revenge, versus, obviously, hey, an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. And it's so cool to see that Vinland Saga just rides that line of back and forth of the duality. Characters from the first 50 chapters or so, I love Askeladd. Askeladd is such a great character. Everything about Askeladd it's so good. He's conniving. He's a schemer. He's incredibly strong. He's this villain, but also you kind of get where he's coming from. Again, it doesn't make what he's doing okay, but it makes it understandable in a way that I don't think a lot of villains reach. Granted, a lot of other series do still get to that point. But even in Vinland Saga, I feel like Askeladd is kind of this very unique being in that he is the Viking way, but he hates them. And it's just so interesting. I should say there will be spoilers in this. It's just so interesting to me to see him as a character as he grows and changes. Everything that happens with him and Thor's is great. Everything Thor's is, oh man, we gotta talk about Thor's. Okay, I'm gonna come back to Askeladd. Thor's is such a cool character. He is the pacifist in a world where pacifism is looked down upon. And normally when you have a pacifist character in anime and manga, that character is either so strong that their will is the only one that's allowed, or so weak that they're just begging people to listen to them. Um, Thor's is definitely not either of those. He is incredibly strong, but he can still die. He's still just human, you know? So while Thor's is this really tough character that wants to put a stop to the fighting, doesn't ever want to have to draw a sword, he's still willing to do so if he has to, you know? And it's so interesting. I know I just keep using the word interesting. It's so interesting to see Thor's have his convictions pushed and to see his answer to those. I think that him as a character, it's so cool. And the way that he as a character affects Thorfinn, the words that he uses with Thorfinn that Askeladd gets to hear, really, really good. You have no enemy. Oh, man. I have thoughts about that, but we're going to get into that in the second half in the other spoiler section. Prince Canute. Prince Canute is really cool. I like Canute a lot. Canute, kind of a sniveling kind of character at first, grows into his own really well and winds up being a really intimidating character in a lot of ways. Canute is really cool. I love Thorkel. Thorkel is incredible. Thorkel is the best. Thorkel just wants to fight strong people. Loves war. He just wants to enjoy it some more. And Thorkel is so much fun. I love Thorkel. Even though he is still that Viking, that, you know, hey, glory in battle kind of character. Thorkel doesn't do it because he wants to prove he's strong. He does it because he likes to fight. And it's so interesting. Man, I just keep using that word. I can't just default to that, Trey. It's so interesting to see where he goes throughout the story as well. Bjorn's really cool. I like Ilfa, Thorfinn's sister. She's pretty cool. I love that, you know, man, I'm trying not to spoil too much in this section. I love that the rest of the crew doesn't really get to do much. You have like Ari and from Thorfinn's village, and just they don't really get to do much because they're just regular people. They're not warriors. They're not fighters, you know. Askeladd's crew is really cool. I think a lot of those characters are really interesting. Atli is really interesting for sure. Ear is pretty cool. And again, the way that story unravels with the crew is really cool as well. I like that a lot. I guess from there, we're going to move into our spoiler section. So if you have read up to 54, but have not read past that, I'm on 179 as of this video. Having finished chapter 179, everything from here on in will be spoilers because the big meat of what I want to talk about is in this section. Chapter 54 is the end of the prologue. Chapter 54 is the end of the prologue. Thorfinn's desire for revenge, his rabid taste, his fever for Askeladd's throat is just the beginning of the story. And you get to see as revenge has just turned this poor boy into this monster that kills relentlessly if it means he gets a chance to try and kill Askeladd, even though he can't touch Askeladd. Askeladd just completely shuts him down every time. But Thorfinn is dedicated to this idea of killing the man who killed his father. That pays off really well. But Thorfinn doesn't get to kill Askeladd. And everything after this, everything from this moment on, is just this. It's like a book series, which, I mean, it's a manga, so it is a book. But it's like a book series where the first 54 chapters was the first book. And everything after this is the ramifications of those chapters. So Thorfinn completely lost his will to live because he can't kill Askeladd. He can't get revenge for Thors. The reason he left his home, the reason he abandoned his mother and his sister, the reason he's been killing people relentlessly all this time was just to kill Askeladd, and he can't get that anymore. So why did he kill all those people? And he's left haunted by the people that he killed for no reason now because his revenge was worthless. And it's just this incredible moment of he's having nightmares every night. He's seeing himself basically in hell. And Askeladd's there being like, hey, you got to have a strong will. You got to keep going. Remember what your father wanted for you to become a true warrior. And just the way that it goes from there with Einar and the farm, with Thorfinn being just like a completely given up. And Einar is slowly able to pull him back out of that to where Thorfinn can be a person again, as Thorfinn is confronting his own inner demons about the people that he killed and trying to find a new purpose in life. And the purpose that he finds is to be that true warrior and to never kill again. He wants a Vinland, a land without violence, without war, where everyone can be at peace. And he will fight for it. And when I say fight, obviously that's like contradicting that, right? No, he will fight by throwing himself on the front lines if he has to, but he will not kill. And it's so interesting to see that he becomes like Thor's, but to an even higher level almost, of like, Thor still carried a sword. Thor was willing to draw that sword. But Thorfinn doesn't carry a sword anymore. Even though he's dang good with a weapon, he doesn't carry a sword anymore. And the whole arc on the farm is really strong. Einar is a really interesting character that we'll get into in a little bit, and I like him a lot. But that whole farm arc just brings Thorfinn full circle back to what Thor's wanted, but not just what Thor's wanted for his son, but Thorfinn choosing to try and redeem himself for the mistakes of his past. And how can a man redeem himself for the lives that he has taken? There's a great moment in that arc where Thorfinn begins to realize the path that he needs to take, where Einar is ready to lose it. And Einar is just ready to go kill some people. And Thorfinn basically tells him, you cannot live for revenge. It doesn't do any good. It's worthless. Because that's what he did, right? The whole time this is happening, Canute has taken over. Canute has Thorkel. Canute is incredibly brilliant. Canute is taking over. And you have Canute talking to the head of his father. And it's so good. Man, Vinland Saga is so good. But where I'm going with this review, instead of just reviewing individually arcs and getting excited, is Thorfinn's character from there then takes on that identity as a whole. He doesn't want to kill anymore. He doesn't want to see people get hurt. He doesn't want to let anyone down. And he wants to go to Vinland to make this land of peace. Little by little by little by little, Thorfinn begins to take the steps to become a good person, right? But it's not easy. It's not easy because constantly he's haunted by the ghosts of those that he hurt. I almost said that hurt him, but the ones that he hurt and the ones that he killed. Asking him questions like, why do you get to live happily? Why do you get to be okay when all of us are gone? It's so good to see this character that was revenge driven, lost a cause, lost everything about their identity, about who they were, because their whole identity was built on revenge, and then rebuilding themselves to fight against the violence. And obviously, hey, violence it's a hefty alternative, right? When you have a sword in your hand, you automatically have an advantage over people. But Thorfinn's policy of no weapons is put to the test over and over again. He's forced to fight people when he doesn't want to. He has to rely on his bare hands to try and stop them. And it's so cool to see Thorfinn is a pacifist, but the story doesn't go easy on him because of it. It's not, okay, well, here's you a big weapon that's magic and nobody can stop it, and so you get to enforce pacifism. It's, no, we don't need to fight, because the first step, the first means to everything, is to speak and understand each other. And over again, you get to see that it works. Not for everybody, obviously. Some people don't want to understand Thorfinn. Some people just want to fight Thorfinn, like Thorkel. But little by little, you get to see that it works. And then in the middle of all this, and I'll get to the other characters that I love in a minute, because I do want to talk about them. But in the middle of all this, you meet Hild. Hild is my favorite character in Vinland Saga. Hild represents the middle ground. Hild carries a weapon. Hild is on her own quest for revenge against Thorfinn because Thorfinn killed her dad. Hild is not afraid to kill. Hild has this crossbow that she has engineered. She is ready to kill Thorfinn at a moment's notice. But Thorfinn is able to get through to her because Thorfinn tries to understand her. And where it leads is Hild saying, I will give you a chance. Prove to me that you can be a better person. Prove to me that leaving you alive and letting you atone is better than killing you. She is the perfect middle ground in this story. Because you have on one hand, the Viking side of revenge is the most important thing. Fight for the sake of fighting. Die in battle and get to go to Valhalla. Then you have Thorfinn's side, which is we don't need to fight. We all can understand each other. If we just try, we can understand each other and there'll be no need for violence. Hild is this perfect in-between of sometimes we need violence, but I want to try to build a better world. And I love her so much. Her design's already great, but just this idea of, I'm with you, Thorfinn, but I will kill you if I have to. And she's the bridge that puts it all together. With her as, like, you have Thorfinn, you have the Vikings, you have her, and with her as that middle ground, the whole story comes together, in my opinion. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. I was afraid for a little bit we might get, like, a Thorfinn-Hild romance. I'm glad that didn't happen. I think that Gudrid is okay. I like Gudrid. I have things I want to talk about with her in a minute. I think that her and Thorfinn are, that's good. That's great. That's fine. I'm not honestly like super caring about shipping in this series at all because the ideologies is what really is interesting to me. But in the middle of all this, you have everyone else, all these other characters, some that agree with Thorfinn, some that don't agree with Thorfinn, that are either for him, against him, around him, trying to use him, trying to see if he'll let them use him. It's just so interesting to me to see the dynamics, how it all connects. You have Canute trying to do the same thing through force, Thorfinn trying to do this through peace. You have Thorkel, who just wants to fight. You have Halfdan, who just wants to be able to make Iceland a great nation and wonderful and amazing. You have Sigurd, who just wanted to be his own man. It all comes together in a really powerful way. And I love the way this story's going. I'm a little concerned about characters like Ivar and what's going to happen there. But, you know, we'll see over the course of the series. So, speaking of characters, let's talk about characters. Because I feel like I've rambled enough about the plot and how much I like it and how it all comes together in a really cool and interesting way. I already talked about Hild. Hild is incredible. Hild is great. Her backstory is really good. And again, the stuff where, you know, she's going to give this Vinland a shot, but only because she needs to see for herself if Thorfinn could do something with his life. I really love Hild. I like Einar a lot. Einar kind of started out as a gripey, complaining kind of character, but he really came into his own throughout that farm arc, became a true brother to Thorfinn in a really cool way, and I like him a lot. Gudrid is pretty cool. She's all right. I liked her more before, I guess is the way to put it. I liked her as the I want to go see the world character, and she still has that, to be fair. It just seems like once the romance subplot started, she became more focused on Thorfinn than on adventuring. But there are some really cool moments with her, some moments where she's willing to stand up and fight when Sigurd is not, and a really good moment where she's like, yeah, I'll go back with you. Just please don't die. When she doesn't even care about the guy. You know, she's really cool. I like her. I just wish that, you know, the The romance, it doesn't even last for that long. I don't know why I'm complaining about it. I liked her more as I want to be a sailor. I want to see the world. I feel like we haven't got a lot of that from her lately. Um, I have a weird thing with bug eyes, round eyes, full eyes. There's so many different translations that I went through, different groups that had translated the series trying to go through it. At first, he was called Full Eyes for me, and then he was called Round Eyes for me, and then he was called Bug Eyes for me. Whatever that character's name is officially, I like him as a character. I think that he's the sleaze, right? You need the one character that's in it for themselves, but also he really cares about his dad, and he kind of respects and likes Thorfinn, and he's become a part of the group. Uh, I'm hoping that things go well with him and he doesn't just wind up getting himself killed, but I like him well enough. I love Leaf. Leaf is so cool. Leaf the Lucky. Getting to see Leaf grow and change as time skips have happened is really cool. And it's I'm really sad that Leaf doesn't get to go. I wanted Leaf to get to see Vinland again, but Leaf's cool. I like Leaf a lot. I talked about Thorkel earlier. I love Thorkel. Thorkel's really cool. Everything to do with Thorkel and Garm was really funny to me. Uh, Stuff with Cordelia, she's great. Um, Thorkel's just such an interesting, and he's an eye patch character, so automatically I love him. Thorkel's just a really interesting character to me, and I'm kind of curious if we'll ever see him again at this point. I worry that he might be out of the story, like a couple other characters, like Willibald has been out of the story for a very long time. I'm kind of almost certain Thorkel's gone at this point, but you never know. He could show up looking for Thorfinn. Um, I like Sigurd a lot. Sigurd is really cool. The way that he's always trying to hide his embarrassment is really interesting. His chain techniques are actually really cool, and he gets in over his head all the time, but he just wanted to be able to do his own thing. He wanted to make his dad proud, and then he wants to be his own man, and I can respect that. I like Askeladd a lot. As we talked about, Askeladd is a great character. He shows up every once in a while in Thorfinn's dreams, and you get to see some cool mirrors between him and Thorfinn, especially during the Garm fight. That was really cool. I like Askeladd a lot. I like Canute a lot, as we talked about. Canute's right-hand guy, Ulf. Wolf, who is also an eye patch man. I mean, more eye patch people. That's all I'm saying. Really, really like Wolf. Let's talk about Thorfinn. I've been saving Thorfinn for last because he is my Hild's my favorite character, but Thorfinn is like such a good MC. Thorfinn starts out, as we said, bound for revenge. It's all he wants. He just wants to go and kill Askeladd. And then, as we said, over the course of the journey, he opens up, wants this other way, wants to try and redeem himself. And the moment where it hits for me, because again, Thorfinn's ideology is very similar to my own. Of we need to try and understand each other, that people can care for each other even when they didn't before, if we just understand each other. But the moment where it hits for me is the moment where Thorfinn is sitting on the rock and he says, I want to be kind. I want to be a gentle, better person. I want to be stronger. Then he says, but it's so hard. The moment with Floki, where Thorfinn realizes Floki's the one that actually got Thor's killed. His desire to kill Askeladd is completely misguided because Floki's the one who did it. I mean, yeah, Askeladd was in charge of it, so it's not fully misguided, but Floki was the one responsible. Takes that sword and he gets ready to kill him, and Baldur gets in the way. And I didn't talk about Baldur, but I really like Baldur. That kid's great. And then he just can't do it because he promised to never kill again. And he breaks the sword over his knee. But it's just so hard. And it's, again, such a great moment because it would be so easy to make Thorfinn a Kira Yamato of just like, no, I'm here for peace. I won't ever hurt anybody. I'm here to help people. I'm not going to harm anybody. I'm completely infallible, and I no longer feel guilt for any of my previous actions. And they don't do that with Thorfinn. They instead, like, he's constantly hounded by it. It really bothers him what he did before. he can't keep his own anger away. He can't keep himself back from that, and he's trying so hard, but there are these moments where it flares up again, and it's so cool. I love Thorfinn. Thorfinn, such a great main character. Yeah, I mean, I could just ramble about the ideology of Thorfinn and how personally it does mean a lot to me to see a main character. Between Thorfinn and Tanjiro, I've been eating well when it comes to main characters that are close to my own ideology. Because, you know, let's not get into a rant about our own ideology, Trey. It's really cool to see Thorfinn trying so hard to make people understand each other. Because it would be so easy to say, well, they don't understand, forget them. But instead, he says, let's try and find that middle ground. Let's try and understand each other. And I like that a lot. I think Thorfinn's a really great main character. I want to touch on the art real quick before we end this. The art in Vinland Saga is incredible. It starts off really good, and it winds up even better. Every once in a while, you get a panel that is like the Bleach style of a character is saying something, and behind them is just like negative space. It's just like a mostly white background. But for the most part, you have really incredible background work. You have some beautiful water, some beautiful terrain. Fortresses look really cool. Weapons are well done. Bindings around weapons are really cool. Helmets are great. You have great expressions. You have an extreme dedication to making sure the scars line up right. For the most part, the art is incredible, and I love it. I think the moment that really sells it is the one where Cordelia is talking about her dad, Thorkel. And he's just this cyclone beast. But the cyclone has definition in between the spinning winds, so you can clearly make out which side of the wind that definition is on. And it just looks incredible. It looks so good. Vinland Saga, absolutely worth a read to me. It's not finished yet. I'll come back and go back over this review again when it's completely finished. But I really, really like it. I would probably, where it is right now, I would probably put it in my top 50. If it sticks the landing, it's going in my top 25 for sure. There are some moments in Vinland Saga that are rough. Some moments in Vinland Saga, one big one that comes to mind is during the Baltic Sea War. There's a moment with these two brothers, and one of them is on the wall and one of them is on the field, and he's trying to let his brother know that he's up there. He's trying to make sure he recognizes him. And so he takes his ring off that he was wearing around his neck, he ties it to his arrow, and he fires it, and he hits his brother right in the head and kills him. And his response is, oh, well, he was an enemy. And the very next frame is the other brother full of arrows slumped on the wall. And it's Vinland Saga gets rough at times, but it's so important to show that war is not just all the glamorous battle that it's portrayed as, that it also tears these families apart and does all this. And I love, again, that Vinland Saga shows both sides of it. Again, it's not the only thing that's ever done that, but I think it's really powerful that it does. I like Vinland Saga a lot. I'm really excited to read more as it keeps going. The Vinland arc is started, and so I guess we'll see what happens there. I want to see how Vinland Saga handles some things there, but I'm really excited to see Thorfinn continue his adventures. I didn't talk about Carly or Carly's mama at all. Those two characters are also really good. I like them a lot. So let me know your thoughts on Vinland Saga in the comment section down below. I'm sure there's something I missed. 179 chapters in 30 minutes is not ideal. I could probably just go forever about individual moments and individual chapters. We didn't even really talk about Bjorn or the stuff with Askeladd and Bjorn and how cool that stuff is. Again, this story is just really good. I think you should read it if you haven't already. I've spoiled you immensely on some of the biggest twists if you have not read it but watch this video. But it absolutely is worth it. Vinland Saga is an incredible ride. And I'm really looking forward to watching the anime now. I want to see the stuff that the anime does there. But again, let me know your thoughts on Vinland Saga in the comment section down below. Until next time, I have been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum the Vinland Saga has to offer.